Chapter 3. Your family have a place up here? Clark Ramsey asked as we made our way through the path between cabins. No, sir. I'm staying over at the Stones trailer. Stones? Bill Stone of Stone Chrysler. That was Rodney's father's business, a booming car dealership in the middle of town. I thought that might impress Mr. Ramsey, but he seemed generally uninterested. Right away I could see he was one of those people who ask questions and never absorb the answers. Crane, he said, do I know your father? What line of work is he in? Insurance, but he just died. I hadn't yet come up with a dignified way of saying that. That's too bad, he said, as if I told him I'd sprained my ankle. The Ramseys' place appeared in the woods, a sprawling affair full of big windows and balconies, looking out onto the lake. Next to the house, it was the nicest one on the cove. How well do you know Tom Wheat? He asked. I've known him a while. An interesting guy, he said, but the way he sniffed when he said it made it clear that interesting was nothing close to a compliment. You're friends with Zan, you said. Not friends, I just know who she is. He seemed pleased with the distinction. The closer we got to the house, the more conscious I became of my appearance. I was wearing only a pair of ragged cutoffs and a faded blue t-shirt. I never saw the point of dressing up on work days. Not that I'd have much to dress up in. I had let my hair go during the summer, and it was almost to my shoulders, thick brown waves that didn't look combed even when they were. I hadn't shaved in a while either, though a week's worth of beard on me wasn't much. I was barefoot too, as always. The skin on the bottom of my feet was as tough as leather, and shoes seemed pointless. But now I found myself wishing I were put together a little better. I could see people on the screened-in back porch, sitting around in lawn chairs, drinking from tall glasses. A faint sound of classical music floated down from the direction. Schubert. You'd never know it to look at me, but I knew something about music. I got it from my father. We bypassed the house and went straight to the dock. Mr. Ramsey didn't say anything as we approached. He didn't need to. I could see the gaping hole in the side of the dock, as if some wild animal had taken a bite out of it. It was a good dock, a floater. Those always withstood the rains better than stationary docks. I preferred them anyway. They were more versatile and worked better with any kind of boat, especially the speeders. Those bounced around in the water like crazy, and you didn't want them banging up against the stationary floors. It's not as bad as it looks, I said as I inspected it. Mr. Ramsey stood a few steps back to be sure the water didn't splash on his clothes. It's a clean break. I'd just have to replace about a half a dozen boards. All standard size. I should have what you need back at the trailer. Good, he said. So how long will you be? Most of the day, but not more. He shook hands with me again as I rose, as if it would have been impossible for him to do business otherwise. I couldn't say it was because he seemed to respect me or appeared impressed in any way. His eyes wandered. He was on to other things. I went back to the trailer and got what I needed, then started to work on the sun. Then started to work as the sun was reaching its zenith. I shed my shirt right away, and I could feel the heat on my back, pressing but not penetrating. My skin was too dark, my tan too secure to burn. My body had adapted to the weather. I had brought my radio with me, as I did on any job, but had neglected to turn it on. Schubert was still drifting down from the cabin. It was the Unfinished Symphony now, one of my favorites, and I listened with pleasure, frustrated only by the fact that I couldn't increase the volume. Imagine, my father used to say, that was a piece he was dissatisfied with. Imagine the genius that could move on from this and say, I want something better. Something better was his Ninth Symphony. a miraculous peace which was what my father listened to night after night right before he died. Not that night, though. That night he had a curious lapse. I thought of it, and my head swooned. The heat had worked its way to me at last. I thought I heard the sound of wind chimes, pieces of crystal clinking together. It made me dizzy and nostalgic. The wind chimes on our porch. Too many of them. My mother thought they were magic. "Here, do you want this?" It was a real voice, not my mother's. I jumped and knocked some nails into the lake. I looked up, and that was the first time I saw Abby. She was standing over me, wearing a red one-piece bathing suit, the sun backlighting her, so I couldn't see her features. I could see she was small and thin. Until I caught her face in a shadow, I thought she might be a child. A clearer view changed that. She was my age at least, her face that of a near woman, round and smooth, pretty even in the harsh light. "I thought you might be thirsty," she said. "You've been out here for hours." I stood and wiped my hands on my cutoff, staring directly into her eyes. They were gray blue, the color of lake on a misty morning. Her hair was dull blonde and short, thin bags lifting in the breeze, freckles dotted. Her nose faint and feminine, like a markings on a fawn. When she smiled, her nose crinkled. "Thanks," I said, taking the glass from her. It was water, cold, clear, and sweet. "I'm Abby Winston," she said. "I'm Tyler Crane." "Your nose is red, Tyler Crane. You better put some zinc oxide on it. It stays this color in the summer. It never peels. Lucky you, I always peel. But that's because I'm a city dweller. The sun doesn't agree with me." I stared into her eyes, and I wanted to ask her 1,000 questions, but they all jammed up inside of me, and I could only keep staring. Water in one hand, hammer in the other. The sound of Schubert went away, and all I could hear was a lake sloshing. "There you are," came another voice. "Daddy's beside himself. He wants a game of hearts, and he wants it now. No one escapes." Zan Ramsey was approaching us. She was her usual perfect self, thick black hair tied in a ponytail, long limbs moving gracefully, blue eyes planted in my direction, but not on me. I looked beyond to the water, the cabins across the cove, the sky, anything more engaging than my face. She wore a white bikini. Her body, even when it was nearly exposed, protected itself. It didn't allow you to know its secrets. I could only look at her hairline, and it was the safest distance from anything. "You shouldn't be on the dock. Daddy says it's coming apart," she said to Abby. "It's perfectly safe." I said, finding my voice. "It's another 2 hours, and it'll be like new." She said, then turned to Abby. "Eric just called to apologize," but I hung up on him. Did I do the right thing? I knew she was talking about Eric Carlisle, one of those all-around best types that she was practically engaged to on and off. Their breakups gave every man at school a leap of hope until it turned out to be a false alarm. "I don't know, Zan. You ought to just confront him. Don't string him along." "I'm not stringing. I just want to know I won't be treated this way. He's too secure. That's his problem. He knows I love him, so he treats me like dirt. If I give him a good scare, he'll be back on his best behavior. That's all men are." Abby turned to me with a playful smile. "Is that all men are? You're asking me? You're a man, aren't you?" "Occasionally." She laughed. Zan didn't. Will we be able to take the boat out tomorrow?" Zan asked me. "I don't see why not." Do I know you?" she asked, squinting her eyes. "We go to school together." She stared at me a little harder, trying to place me, then gave up. "Oh well, I'm Zan Ramsey. This is my cousin, Abby Winston. She's visiting from D.C. "Oh really?" I said, trying to think of something to say about D.C. Nothing came to mind since I'd never been there. "Her father's in the house," Zan said, "so watch your step." I looked past her to the cabin. Oh, is he spying on us? Not that house, you idiot. Zan said, laughing. The House of Representatives. You've heard of it. The U.S. House of Representatives, I asked. Yeah, I've heard of it. Isn't it somewhere up north? Great move, Crane, I thought, falling for the daughter of a congressman. Just your league. Anyway, Abby, Daddy is serious about this game of hearts. He's dealing you a hand, so don't be late. Zan moved off then, stepping carefully over the stones along the way. I wish Zan wouldn't tell people that, Abby said to me, about my father. It embarrasses them, and it's really no big deal. It certainly isn't, especially since my father is Secretary of Defense. She laughed, crinkling her nose. I hope I'll see you around. We're here for 2 weeks. Where are you staying? Right across those woods. You'll see me if you look hard enough. I'll look, she said.